Hello crafty friends, it's Donna here, and I have a set of 4 cards for you today that use one stencil in 4 different ways. We've got some nice restful colours, some beautiful restful music, so sit back and relax and enjoy the cards. The stencil that I'm using today is from Paper Rose and it's called Floral Borders. Perhaps you've got something like this in your stash. I'm going to be doing lots of masking today, and I will use post-it tape for most of that, but also I'll be using some washi tape, which breeds in my drawers at home. To begin with, I've masked off an area in the middle of this card, and I'm going to be blending up and down from that masked off area. I've chosen some really gentle colours for today's cards. I was just in the mood for something soft and restful, but I think these would look equally fabulous in hot pink or rainbow colours. You can see here that little strip of tape that I have in the middle, and now I'm going to flip the stencil around and work above that tape. I'm placing it so that the design actually overlaps onto the tape, so that we get a nice straight line where the design finishes. And I'm blending over the whole design in the lighter colour and then just coming in closer to the middle with the darker colour. Once I've done that, I decided I would quite like to have some blending in the middle. It felt like too much of an empty space. And so I'm masking off now the outside, just using some scraps of paper, and I'm going to come in and blend a strip through the middle. And I've chosen some pumpkin pie ink for that because it's pumpkin season here in Australia. My bench is currently covered with pumpkins from our garden, and we're slowly working our way through them. The stamp I'm going to use is this Happy Birthday, which comes in a couple of parts. And I'm going to be stamping this in 2 separate layers to get a nice dark, shiny sentiment. First of all, I'm stamping it in the blue. That's the same blue that I used for the darker colour in my ink blending, but you can see that when you stamp it, it comes out much stronger. Once I've done that and the ink is dry, I'm brushing over with my powder tool, and then without moving the stamp in my stamping platform, I'm going to restamp in the same place with clear sticky ink. I'm using Versamark. Then I'm going to sprinkle on some clear embossing powder and heat set that. It gives the sentiment a little bit of dimension and a whole lot of shine. I'll see if I can get a photo when I finish this card to show you exactly how that looks. Once that was stamped, I decided that more was more, and so I'm going back in with some more orange. I think that's one of the superpowers of ink blending. You really can start light and keep going until you're happy. You don't need to make a decision right at the start. I'm going to construct this card really simply. I'll cut it with a stitched border rectangle, layer it up on some craft cardstock, and add a couple of dots. Let's look at another idea for using this stencil. Because the images are in such beautiful lines, I've decided to use that for my advantage. And I'm putting that stencil down at an angle on the card and ink blending that. I'm going to continue to blend that up the page. But what I'm doing right now is just marking how wide it is and then adding an extra centimetre, so that just between this row and the one above, I'm going to have room to add my sentiment. I'm going to put all of the other strips closer together than this. I'm going to use the same colours throughout all of these cards. I love to experiment with different colours, but even more than that, I like a completed set of cards that just looks nice together in the photo. And so lately I've been tending to keep all of my cards the same if I'm making a set. I'm going to use this Happy Birthday Thanks stamp for my sentiment and heat emboss that onto some craft paper. I also heat embossed it onto some brown paper so that I could make my decision later about which one I preferred. But in the end, craft was the winner. I had a couple of little missing spaces in my embossing powder, and so I'm just filling them in with a white gel pen. Then I'm going to use once again a stitched rectangle die to cut both the sentiment and that background panel and pop them up. For this next card I'm using a 6x6 card base from Paper Rose Studio, and I've used a circle die to lightly draw on a 4.5 inch circle. And I'm marking that in 8 equal places around the circle. Before I stencil onto each section, I'm just erasing the pencil because that ink will trap the pencil under it and I won't be able to erase it later. I've worked out that one of these flowers is about 1/8 of my circle, and so I'm working my way around, only ink blending the leaves. I've actually masked off the flowers at this stage. Once I'd ink blended a couple of these sets of leaves, I realised that it was going to not quite make it. And so all I did was I moved it very slightly out so that my circle would be a little bit bigger. You can't see it on the whole thing, but the first 2 motifs are a little bit closer to the centre of the circle. Once I've finished with the leaves, I'm going back in to do the flowers. My first attempt at masking used post-it tape and I couldn't see where to place the stencil, so I've gone back and masked with some washi tape, which has quite a few clear sections on it, so I can see what I'm doing. This sentiment comes from the big black and white sentiment sheets, and I've cut that out with a circle die. Let's have a look at another idea. This time I'm going to blend just one of the lines from this stencil, and I'm blending it in 2 inks. I've got that grey blue and the pink. I know that when they meet in the middle, they should form some kind of dusty purple. And then once I've done that, I'm going to then go around the outside of not everything, but most of the bigger elements with a gold pen. The areas are quite small, and so it's not too hard to keep a steady hand. I'm not doing the tiny, tiny little strips, but I am adding some little dots and extra elements just for a bit of fun. When I've done that, I'm going to draw some gold lines. And I'm yet to find a gel pen that doesn't stay wet on the ruler, and so I'm just giving the ruler a little bit of a wipe between lines. I really like the way the gold plays with these 2 colours. I'm going to use that same Happy Birthday Thanks stamp, only this time I'll choose the thanks. Because I have so much gold on this card, I'm going to heat emboss this in gold, and I'm especially careful to use my powder tool when my embossing colour is not clear or white, because I know that any little speck is going to show up. Heat set that, and then once again grab out those stitched rectangles. I'm sure you can spot a pattern by now. Those of you who have been following me for a long time know about my love of stitched rectangle dies. For those who are new to the channel, welcome to my world of stitched rectangles. That's the last of the cards for today. Hopefully you've got some new ideas for using stencils in different ways. I'll be back soon with some more cards. Feel free to like and subscribe if you'd like to know about what's coming. Otherwise, I'll see you soon. Bye for now.